Welcome to the Great Lakes Fishing Podcast. We're at the Greater Niagara Fishing and Outdoor Expo, and I'm with Rob Oram now, and we're going to talk some Lake Erie walleye stuff. And Rob, one of the things that you really like to do is pull worms when you're fishing Lake Erie. Can you tell us just a little bit about how you do what you do and what's your setup looking like?
I prefer to pull inline weights and spinners and worms, especially earlier in the year till the middle of July here.
So you're looking for a certain water temperature, though. What's that water temperature when you feel like now's the time we can start pulling worms?
50 degrees.
50 degrees, and you're getting your worm stuff out. What are the advantages of doing that, and why do you think worms work so well?
I think the worms really work good in Lake Erie is the walleyes eat eels, and a worm looks identical to an eel. It's my theory. Mm-hmm. There's like 4 different species of eels in the lake, and there's millions of them. I didn't know how else to explain why a walleye in Lake Erie loves a worm. So that's my explanation, whether I'm right or wrong. But I like pulling inline weights and the spinners because it's easy. You can take someone out and who doesn't fish a lot or doesn't fish at all, and usually by the end of the day, they have a good grasp of the concept, and they'll be putting the worms on and putting the spinners out and putting the boards on, and I just think it's a simple, effective method of catching a lot of fish.
Yeah, and right now Lake Erie is kind of the place to be. What is the Lake Erie walleye fishery like right now?
The best it's ever been, best that I've ever known. It's, to me, 18 fish. You should have 18 fish on within 2 hours. You don't have to keep them, but right. I'd say that's a pretty good expectation.
And it's not just numbers; the size there is there right now too.
No, that's the thing. There's a bunch of different classes. This past year, we didn't catch many fish that were not legal 15 inches here. Most of the fish were, I'd say, 18 to 20 inch average this year. I mean, fat, beautiful looking, healthy fish. And I don't think you can go anywhere in the country and catch the amount of fish with the quality of fish that we have right now in Lake Erie.
So you're looking for that 50-degree weather before you start breaking out your worm harnesses. What are you doing when the water is colder than that?
When it's colder, well, here in New York, we have a season compared to like going to the Western Basin where their season's open all year round. So we've got to wait till May 1st to start walleye fishing. And by then, the water's close to 50 degrees here, or is 50 degrees. So, I can start using worms usually right when the season opens. What I found is to fish during the day and catch the fish. I have a lot of success with running the spinners and the worms high up in the water column and slow. Mm-hmm. Where typically in this part of the lake in the spring, a lot of guys do the night trolling, and they pull the Rapalas and the Smithwicks at night, in shallow, and they do really good too.
Yeah. Do you like pulling those worms? And you say slow, what kind of speeds are you running?
1 to 1.4, I would say. Anywhere in there, your worm is the program's effective.
Mm-hmm. What kind of depths are we fishing in, and how deep are you running your baits?
This end of the lake is the deeper end. So typically, we're in 40 to 50 feet of water, mm-hmm. and normally target, I'll say 15 to 20 feet down in a water column.
So you're not fishing real deep. You're fishing over pretty high over some suspended fish. And where are those fish running?
The fish will be staged 20 to 35 feet down. And what I found with the worm program is the walleyes like the worm to be up above them, like they feed up. So I try to target putting that worm 6 to 10 feet above them.
Okay.
So that's why even in 50 feet of water, I'm still running my bait, 15 to 18 feet down. And what happens is on your graph, you're not marking a lot of fish. You'll mark the fish that are down a little bit more, but the fish that are up, you're not marking. So you're thinking that there's not a lot of fish out there, or that there's any fish out there according to your electronics. But that's because the fish are just higher up in the water column.
Sure. And you build your own worm harness. Can you tell me about how you're building your worm harnesses?
Yeah. I make them all the same. I've gone to 20-pound test fluorocarbon. I prefer Seagar. I use number 2 fast grip hooks, and I use 6 millimeter beads, and a number 5 Colorado blade. And what I usually do is 6 or 7 beads, and then I put my clevis and my blade on.
Why the Colorado blade?
It spins. I like the deep cup ones. You can go slower, a little bit slower with them, and still get a good spin on it. And it's been the most effective for me, the number 5. So that's like my go-to, and I use it all year round here.
And why do you choose the hook that you're using?
I use a smaller hook, and it's a little bit thinner hook. Because of the slower speeds, and the walleyes have a bony, toothy mouth, you want a hook that will get in far enough to keep that fish on when you reel them in. And it seems like the smaller hooks are more forgiving.
Treble hooks?
I don't use the treble hooks. I don't like them. One, because you get the treble hook stuck in a net, and you get them stuck in your finger. They're just, it just makes things more difficult using the treble hooks after you catch the fish. I don't see where they catch any more fish than just a single number 2 hook. So I just don't use them.
What are you using for a line?
I use 20-pound braid, and then my worm harnesses are all 4 to 5 feet long, and I put a barrel on them so I can just clip them on. So I have my braid to my inline weight to my leader for my spinner.
What type of inlines are you using?
I have some that are like shaped like a fish. There's a couple different guys out there making them now. But I also have a whole box of the Eagle Claws, and it's just a cylinder piece of lead. You can get them 1, 2, 3, and 4 ounce, and they have molded in a swivel so that it doesn't twist your line up. And there's no difference between using that or a fish weight.
And for guys who haven't done this before, how do they kind of figure out the depths they're running in, and as far as what weight to use, how much line is set out? How do you set up those rigs like that?
The first thing I would tell the guys is to put the same amount of line on your reels so that they're all the same. And the second thing would be to start off the day with your lighter weights, say a 1 ounce, and put them 20 feet back, 30 feet back, 40 feet back until you catch something, until you catch a fish. And then you can get an idea of where they're in the water column without making it too sophisticated.
So you're not using lead core or anything like that?
No, that program, no. It's just an inline weight program. It's simple. You can leave the weight on when you reel the fish in. So when you're taking people out for the first time, they don't have to do anything but reel the fish in.
Yeah, very simple, very easy to pull off. How do you set your setups? So when you're setting up your gear, how do you got your rod set up? How many rods are you setting out?
I normally don't fish more than 6 rods unless it's a tournament. So I'll run 2 or 3 boards off each side, and then maybe a couple just off the corner of the boat. Mm-hmm. And I just try to keep it simple, so that way you got less tangles. And like we said in the beginning, the population is so good in Lake Erie that you don't need to run a ton of rods to catch your limit of fish.
Sure. But when things get tough, what do you do in those situations?
When things get tough, either the fish are higher up in the water column, so you actually got to put stuff up higher. Sometimes you got to slow down. Sometimes you got to speed up just to trigger a strike. But a lot of times, I'll just pick up and move to a different area, mm-hmm. and start the process all over again. There's enough fish in the lake that, if you do have some fish and they kind of did turn off for a little bit, there's going to be another pot of fish that want to eat.
Sure. There's something I haven't asked you about how you're running your worms.
Besides the speed, I keep my worms in a straight line, so they're like a snake. Mm-hmm. Usually put the front hook through the head, and then the back hook. You don't want to stretch out the worm too much and then hook it, because what happens is the worm will shrink back up, and then it'll curl and twist when it's going through the water. So what I usually do is put the second hook by the heart. Mm-hmm. And, even though there'll be a little bend in your leader from your first hook to your second hook, but when that worm stretches out in the water, he's gonna straighten that up.
Cool.
That would be something that I try to do, is keep that worm straight.
That's an awesome tip, Rob. Thanks, man. If anybody wants to learn more about you or find information about you, where can they find you?
I fish all the tournaments on the eastern end. My fishing team is EyeCon Fishing. My partner usually takes care of the stuff online.
Sure.
And I've been lucky to get asked to come back to this Niagara Falls Fishing Expo show and give some seminars, and you can take the trip to Niagara Falls and come see me.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. I've been to a couple of your seminars today, and packed houses for both of them. So people are interested in what you have to say and seem to be really enjoying what you're talking about.
That's good. I love fishing, and I love watching you catch a fish. So if I can help people, especially getting into the sport, because we need more younger anglers in the sport. If I can do anything to help you catch fish or them catch fish, I'm going to tell you all the little tricks, and it's taken a lot of time to kind of like get things narrowed down to try to keep it simple and fun. And if I can help speed up that process, I think it's great.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. Thanks so very much for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.